Hi everyone. So I wanted to make this video for a really long time now, and I've made it once before, but I deleted it just because I wasn't comfortable with it and I just didn't like how it turned out. So I'm going to try my best to make it again and make it in a way where I explain everything and try not to cry at the same time. So, as a lot of you have known, I've had 2 of what they call chemical pregnancies, and that means that they happen usually before women even find out that they're pregnant or even think that they're pregnant. And with my last one, I was only, I think, 3.5 weeks or 3 weeks, 5 days or something like that. And tomorrow it'll be a year since that happened, and I don't know, it's just really crazy to think that right now I would have a 2 or 3 month old and I'd be a mom. But I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and I just hope that one day when I do decide to have kids that it happens, I don't know, quickly. It is a healthy pregnancy. It's, everything that I dreamt of when I got that first positive test with my little bean. That's what I called my baby that I had in my stomach, where as far as I knew, for a couple days. And the second that I found out I was pregnant, it was I don't know why it's really hard to talk about. As soon as you see those 2 pink lines, it's like your life just changes. And so, even if it was just a moment or a day or 2 days, I did not want to do this. My life changed drastically in just those 2 days. And since I'd had a chemical pregnancy previously, I just remember hoping and praying that it wouldn't happen again and that this one would stick and I would have a sticky, healthy baby. So last July, me and my now ex were trying for a baby. We were living together. We both had decent jobs. We just thought that was the next step. I knew that I wanted to be a younger mom. I didn't want to wait too long, and since already having a chemical pregnancy before, I don't know, just this weird pressure feels like, what if I'm not able to have kids? What if it's gonna take a while, So we've been trying for a couple months, and then in July, I found out that I was pregnant. So I believe I got the positive test on the 21st, and I had gotten it on one of those little quick Amazon dip tests, and it was actually on 10 days post ovulation or past ovulation or whatever. And I looked at it and I seen the smallest faint line, and I was like, there's no way, And but in the back of my head I was like, I've never gotten it pink. And so I immediately went and well, I cried, and my mom was there, and I was like, Mom, like, look, there's a faint line. And she was like, no, like, you know, it's you can't be. And I was like, okay. And so then later on that day, we went into Walmart, and I was like, well, let me get the pink dye test, and let me try first response. First response early result or whatever. And so, me being impatient, I took it in the Walmart bathroom, and I got the faintest of pink lines. But it was a pink line, and I've never gotten a pink line on the first response test. And I remember I was already starting to feel a little different and a little more tired. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm actually pregnant. And so then, I was really, really excited, and since I'd already had a chemical before, it was really, really scary, and I just kept thinking, like, oh, I don't want to bleed again, I don't want to see any blood. It was just really, really scary, and so I just kept talking, like, please, 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 like, don't let this happen again. Immediately, like, started taking the prenatals and everything, and I was just really excited. And so I was testing every morning to make sure that there was still a line, and like 2 days later, I noticed that they weren't really getting any darker, and I started like spotting, and it was like really, really light. It would come and it would go, and so then I called my doctor, and she's like, no, like, that can be normal. Sometimes that just happens, you know, and just keep an eye on it, wear a pad, and see, you know, if it gets any heavier. And so I just kept doing what I was doing, and the blood just started to get a little heavier, but it wasn't like super heavy, not like the last time. The cramps were like there, but they weren't like they were with my previous chemical, so I was like, okay, maybe, you know, it's implantation or whatever. And so I just kept trying to be calm, and then I believe it was the 24th or the 25th, one of those days, I can't remember, and it had to be the 25th, but it's a weird feeling to describe, because at one second you feel pregnant, and you feel all this excitement, and like you're just ready. And like I said, as soon as you see those 2 lines, your life changes forever. And so the bleeding started to get heavier, and I didn't feel pregnant anymore. That's the best way to describe it. It's just that I didn't feel any of the real symptoms. I just felt lonely, and I already knew what was happening with my body. And so my doctor, I sent her a picture of my test, and I was like, hey, you know, they're really light, but I think that I'm pregnant. And she was like, okay, well, let's get you in. And this is when I was already bleeding, so I pretty much already knew what was happening. And it was a guy doctor, and I called, and she was like, well, the doctor said that it's not as dark as he wants it to be, so he doesn't really think that you could be pregnant, and so he wants you to come in and get a urine test. Urine tests are not as sensitive as blood, but they didn't want to do blood on me because, like I said, they kind of felt like the girl who cried wolf, because I wanted it to I want it to happen so bad, and I just didn't feel like he believed me. So then I reached out to a woman doctor, and I was like, hey, I know that he won't see me until I get a urine test, but I'm already bleeding, and I already feel like it's like my baby is leaving my body. So is there any way that I can come in and get a blood test? And so she was like, yeah, like, come in, don't worry about it. And so then I was at work, so I had to, tell my boss, like, I had to go. And I went and I got the blood test, and then I just went home and I just cried. I just sat on the couch and I cried. Whew, I did not want to do this. And my mom just, what's wrong? And I just told her I know that I'm losing it. And I was still waiting to hear back, and I just wasn't hearing anything. And so I got a call from the doctor, and they told me, it wasn't even my doctor, it was just the lady that worked at the lab. And I was like, hey, like, what are my results? And she said, well, I can't tell you if you're pregnant or not. She said, but you're measuring at 5 mlu, and I can't tell you if you're pregnant or not, but all I can say is I would start taking prenatals if I were you. And so I just told her thank you, and I hung up the phone. And then I really started crying because, like I said, I already knew what was happening, and it just sucked. My mom was one of my biggest supporters. And it's crazy because talking to her is amazing, but it's hard too because she's never really gone through that, and so she couldn't relate. And when you see those two lines, you just get all these hopes and dreams, and you just constantly wonder, to this day, like, would I've had a son or a daughter? Would they play sports like I did? Would they, do this? Would they do that? And although it's hard, and I know it's something that I still have to overcome every day, that eventually I will get there. And going through what I've gone through already, it makes me believe that I can absolutely get through anything that life has to throw at me, and that I am one of the strongest people that I know, and also that I am very blessed to have the mom and the support system that I do. Without her and other friends, family, I don't think that I would have made it through, especially since it just is a different type of pain. And although I wasn't even that far along, and although the lines were so faint and I was only pregnant for a short time, the pain is still there. I think about him or her every single day, and it's just one of those things that you just have to take day by day. After the second one, I really wanted to get tested and just to put my mind at ease, because when you go through it, you automatically go to, well, it's my body, it's my fault, what did I do? Like, oh, I shouldn't have drank a coffee, or I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have done that. And I really just wanted to get it done just to make sure that, like, I'm okay, and that that nothing that I did made it happen. And I know that I didn't, and I know that sometimes stuff happens, but in that moment I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about, well, let me try to find answers. And the only answers that I got from both doctors were that I'm young and it happens, and they didn't want to do testing on me, that I'm fine. And it was one of the most annoying times of my life. And if you've ever been in that situation, then you know what I'm talking about, especially since you're young, you're healthy, you're fine. And at that point in time, I just felt, well, if that's the case, then why am I not pregnant? Like I said before, I am a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. Everything that I do and that I've done from that point on has been for both of them. And I cannot wait for the day when it is my time to be a mom. And I know with every ounce of my being that I am going to be a great mom someday. And even though now and then were not the time, that eventually and hopefully I will get my time. My sister got me this really pretty necklace. I'll show you. It is an angel wing with both of the birthstones that they would have had. I try not to wear it too often. It's just something that's really, really special to me, and definitely don't want to break it or ruin it. And it's just one of those things that I will hold very, very dearly to my heart every single day. I made this video to help myself and maybe help someone else who's going through it know that you're not alone, because it's a really lonely time, and I know that. I've been there. And even if it helps just one person, then I feel like the video did its purpose. and also just to let people in on my mind frame, and also to let myself know how far I've come, because from that point last year and to this point this year, it's been a journey, and I'm really proud of myself for making it through what I have, and I am also really excited to see what else my life has in store for me. And